It was 6:47 a.m. in Washington, D.C. when Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett opened her inbox. There it was. Subject: Notice of Legal Action, Trump vs. Crockett. She stared at the screen, frozen. The sender: Barron Trump's legal team. Accusation: defamation. Her crime: speaking the truth. She whispered, "So this is how they want to play." Crockett closed her laptop and stood by the window, watching the morning fog hug the Capitol dome. Her staff soon gathered. Some looked afraid, some looked furious. But she was calm. "He wants war," she said. "Let's show him truth." News broke within hours. Barron Trump, the youngest of the Trump family, had filed a very public lawsuit. Media flooded the networks. Commentators spun stories. Some mocked her. Others warned, "This is career suicide." But that night, as Crockett walked home alone in the rain, she pulled a folded paper from her coat. An old letter, from someone long forgotten. On the back of it was a number. She dialed. A man answered. And that call would change everything. "Crockett," the voice said. It was rough. Quiet, like gravel on cold concrete. She paused. "You used to work for him, didn't you?" He sighed. "I worked for all of them." This man, once buried deep in U.S. intelligence, had retired silently. No press, no memoirs, no interviews. But he had seen things, dangerous things, including one name that hadn't left his lips in years: Barron. He whispered, "You don't know what you're standing against." Crockett didn't flinch. "Then teach me." They met 3 nights later in a small diner outside Alexandria. He wore a Navy cap and ordered nothing but coffee. She brought no one, just a small recorder tucked in her jacket and a broken heart full of fire. Over 2 hours he told her stories. Not rumors, records, emails, conversations, things that could sink careers. Then he leaned close and said, "I watched that boy, Barron, learn everything from his father, not just how to win, how to erase people." Crockett's hands trembled, but she nodded. "I need you," she said. He agreed to testify, but only once, and only if she promised not to protect her name, but to protect truth. The day had come, July 9th, 2025. The courthouse steps swarmed with reporters, camera crews, protesters. Some chanted, "Crockett lies." Others shouted, "Let her speak." Jasmine Crockett stepped out of her black SUV. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, just a deep blue suit, the color of midnight storms. Her eyes were steady, her voice silent. Inside, Barron Trump sat at the front with his legal team. 5 lawyers, all older than him. He wore a sleek gray suit and a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. As the judge called order, Crockett calmly walked to her table, and behind her came him, the retired officer. Every camera turned. People whispered. Barron's smile twitched. Jasmine leaned in and whispered to her lawyer, "He's ready." The trial began. Opening arguments flew like arrows. Barron's team painted Crockett as reckless, an attention-seeking firebrand trying to smear a young man's legacy. But Crockett didn't blink. When it was her turn, she stood, walked to the stand, and then gently she called her witness. The courtroom air turned cold. He took the stand, raised his right hand, and just before swearing in, he looked Barron in the eye. That was the moment everything started to crack. He adjusted the microphone slowly. "I served this nation," he said. 42 years. I kept secrets. I buried friends. And I watched lies grow like vines around the truth." The courtroom leaned forward. You could hear shoes shift, cameras click, hearts thump. Then he said, "Barron Trump contacted me in 2020. Barron's lawyer stood up fast. "Objection, irrelevant." "Overruled," said the judge, eyes fixed on the witness. "He wanted to learn," the man continued, "how governments shape perception." how you take a truth and twist it until even you believe the lie. Barron flinched. Just once. A twitch. The man didn't pause. He asked me for strategies, whisper campaigns, fake leaks, psychological triggers. He wanted to reshape public thought, he said, like his father, but cleaner, smarter. 9 seconds. That's all it took. Gasps filled the room. One woman sobbed. Barron's lawyer whispered something. Barron didn't reply. The judge called a short recess. Crockett sat down, quietly. She looked out the window. Rain began to fall again, like it knew what had just happened. The truth, finally spoken, had landed like thunder, and no one could unhear it. The clip hit the internet within minutes. 9 seconds that shook the case. Crockett's surprise witness exposes Barron Trump. Whispers become screams in federal courtroom. Every outlet played the same moment, again and again. Talk shows dissected it. Podcasts broke it down. But it wasn't the words that hit hardest. It was the way they were said. Calm, certain, like someone confessing the truth they never wanted to carry. Outside the courthouse, crowds tripled. Supporters held signs, "Let her speak. Truth is not defamation. You can't sue silence." Inside, Barron's team scrambled. Their narrative was collapsing. They tried to redirect the case, shift it to Crockett's tone, her history, her political motives. But the truth wouldn't move. Crockett didn't speak much that day. She just sat, hands folded, while her witness held the line. Later that night, she walked back to her apartment alone. Reporters trailed behind but didn't speak. She unlocked her door, and on the floor was a letter. No address, no stamp. Just one line inside. "They will come for you next." 3 knocks, sharp, slow, purposeful. It was 2:12 a.m. Jasmine Crockett stood still in her living room, heart racing. She hadn't told anyone where she lived, not even her assistant. The lights were off. Her phone was dead. Another knock, then a voice through the door. "It's me, the officer." She hesitated, then cracked the door. He looked shaken, paler than before. His hands trembled. "They followed me," he whispered. "I think they bugged my home. I had to come now." Crockett let him in. He pulled out a small flash drive and handed it to her. "Everything I told you, it's here. Emails, notes, even the private briefings Barron requested. But there's more. This isn't just about public image. He's trying to set up something bigger. I don't know what." Crockett swallowed hard. The drive was warm in her hand, heavy somehow, like holding something alive. She looked at him. "If I play this in court, you'll destroy him," he said. "But you'll make enemies, real ones." She nodded, then asked one question. "If it was your daughter on trial for truth, would you protect her?" His eyes filled with tears. He nodded slowly, and Crockett made her decision. The courtroom buzzed louder than ever. Word had spread. Crockett has a flash drive. Some thought it was a bluff. Others said it might end the case. Cameras flashed as she entered. Same blue suit, same calm eyes. But inside, her chest was shaking. She clutched the drive in her hand like it was holy, like it held the ghost of something long buried. Because maybe it did. "Your Honor," her lawyer said, "we have new evidence. Verified, relevant. We request to play it now." Barron's lawyers objected, screamed about surprise evidence, but the judge, older and quiet, leaned forward. "Play it." The screen lit up. The room dimmed. First, static. Then, a video call. Barron's voice. "We need to shape the way people think about my father and me. Can you build narratives, ones that feel organic?" The officer's voice replied, "You mean manipulate them?" "No," Barron said, smiling. "Just redirect their feelings." A long pause, then, "America loves emotion. We'll give them some." Someone in the courtroom sobbed. Crockett didn't move. Barron's face turned red. The screen went black, and silence again told the loudest truth. News anchors couldn't hide their shock. One even cried on air. Across the country, people sat in silence, phones in hand, tears running down cheeks. Because the voice on that tape wasn't a child's. It wasn't innocent. It was planned, smooth, cold. Redirect their feelings. Mothers thought of their own sons. Fathers stared at the screen. Teachers paused lessons. Veterans held their breath. This wasn't politics anymore. This was something deeper. Crockett stayed silent that night. She didn't post. She didn't speak. She just sat in her car outside her old high school and thought of her mother. "Tell the truth, Jasmine," her mom once said, "even when your voice shakes, even if it costs you everything." She whispered into the dark, "I'm doing it, Mama." That same night, thousands of letters flooded her office. Some angry, most broken. One was from a teenage girl. "You made me believe in good again. Don't stop." Crockett folded it, put it in her coat, and whispered to herself, "They finally see." But deep in a black SUV nearby, someone else was watching her, and they were not crying. They were planning. The next morning, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a burned match, a photo of her walking alone, and one line, "Burn with your truth." The Capitol Police were called. The courthouse got tighter security, but Crockett didn't flinch. She held the photo up to the sunlight, her hand steady. "They're scared," she said. Her team begged her to withdraw. "This is bigger than one lawsuit, Jasmine," her aide cried. "They're going to ruin you, or worse." But Crockett just closed her eyes and whispered, "Let them try." That day in court, Barron didn't show up. His lawyers claimed he was unwell, but everyone knew he was hiding. So Crockett stood. She walked to the witness stand, alone. No lawyer this time. And she faced the judge. "I have one thing left to say," she began. And what followed was not a legal argument, not a defense. It was a letter. To the people. To the mothers raising sons. To the daughters being told to stay quiet. Her voice cracked. Twice. But she read every word. And when she finished, not a single person in the courtroom could hold back their tears. Even the judge's eyes were wet. And the nation was finally listening. The courtroom was silent, still, like a prayer had been spoken. Jasmine Crockett stood at the witness stand, holding the crumpled paper. Her voice had cracked 3 times. Her hands trembled, but she never looked down. The judge finally whispered, "Thank you, Congresswoman. You may step down." She turned and walked past the gallery. A woman stood, then a man, then more. Within seconds, the entire room was standing. Not clapping, not cheering, just standing. For truth, for courage, for her. Outside, the press went wild. Headlines spread like wildfire. Crockett's letter melts America. A stand bigger than politics. From defendant to defender of the people. The teenage girl who wrote to Jasmine, she went live on TikTok and read the letter aloud. It went viral. Millions wept with her. One line hit everyone the hardest. "If telling the truth breaks me, then I was never meant to bend for lies." Barron's lawyers went silent. No statement, no counter. Because Crockett's words weren't just heard. They were felt. And something in the nation's heart began to shift. That night, far from the cameras, Barron Trump stood alone in a marble bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror. The same mirror his father once used. He splashed water on his face. But the tears came anyway. He didn't cry because of guilt or regret. He cried because he lost control. The plan had cracked. The silence didn't hold. The public no longer believed the image. In the reflection, he saw not a leader, not a victim, just a scared boy wearing a suit too heavy. His phone buzzed. A message. "She's turning the people. You need to end this." But how? He paced the room, punched the wall, screamed at his own reflection. The image fought back. And for the first time, he saw his father in his own eyes, and it terrified him. Because maybe the world wasn't against him. Maybe the world had just seen through him. Day 11 of the trial. Cameras circled the courthouse like hawks. The world was waiting. Again. But this time, it wasn't for Crockett. It was for Barron. He finally returned. But not with lawyers. He walked in alone. No tie. No smile. Just tired eyes. People stared. Whispered. He sat at the table, placed both hands flat, and whispered to the judge, "I want to withdraw the lawsuit." Gasps echoed. Phones lit up. The judge looked at him long and hard. "Are you certain?" he asked. Barron nodded. "There's nothing left to fight." Crockett watched from across the room. She didn't smile. She didn't flinch. Because this wasn't victory, it was something heavier. After the hearing, Barron walked past her, slowly, quietly. He paused for just a second, looked at her, and whispered, "You didn't just win. You reminded people how to feel." She said nothing back, but the tears in her eyes, they weren't for herself, they were for him. For the boy who had been taught control, but never compassion. And in that moment, even he began to break. 2 days after the lawsuit was dropped, Barron Trump was seen at the Lincoln Memorial. Alone, no cameras, no press, just silence and stone and history staring back at him. In his jacket pocket, he held something that wouldn't leave him alone. A copy of Crockett's letter. Printed from an article, folded and worn at the edges. He had read it 13 times. He read it again. One line shook him more than the rest. What kind of country teaches its children to hide behind power instead of truth? That line was him. And suddenly it all cracked open inside. The fake smiles, the quiet manipulation, the need to be more than his father, and somehow ending up exactly like him. Barron sat on the cold steps, head in his hands, crying where no one could see. And then, slowly, he pulled out a pen. On the back of Crockett's letter, he began writing one of his own. It was early morning when Jasmine Crockett heard the knock. Soft, careful. She opened the door slowly, half expecting press or a protester. But there stood Barron Trump. Alone. No guards, no suit. Just a boy with swollen eyes and a folded letter in his hand. She said nothing. He held it out to her. "I know I can't fix everything," he said, "but I want to try." She took the letter, hands trembling. Inside was a single page, written in shaky pen. It wasn't just an apology. It was honest. He admitted the plans, the strategies, the fear, the weight of trying to live up to an image he never chose. And at the end, one line. "I thought I had to be strong, but maybe strength is just honesty with scars." Jasmine sat on her couch and read it twice. Then, for the first time in days, she cried. Not because she had been attacked, not because she had been threatened, but because she saw something so rare. A Trump had told the truth. The letter went public 3 days later, by Barron's choice. He released it in full, no edits, no handlers, just raw words from a broken son of a powerful name, and it shattered the internet. News anchors wept live. People posted stories of pain, power, shame, and survival. Veterans, teachers, activists, even former Trump supporters. all said the same thing. We needed this. We needed to feel again. And Jasmine? She didn't gloat. She didn't dance in victory. She sat in front of one microphone and said this: America doesn't need perfect leaders. It needs honest ones. Even if they shake, even if they fall, if they stand back up and tell the truth, that's leadership. The courtroom was over. The case was closed. But something bigger had opened, a nation's wound, and the start of its healing. And in that space, Crockett didn't just become a congresswoman, she became a mirror. And America, for the first time in years, looked at itself and cried. It was quiet when Melania Trump called him. Barron sat by his window, watching the trees move in the wind. The phone lit up. He hesitated, then answered. She didn't say hello. She just whispered, "You wrote that letter?" He waited, then softly said, "Yes." There was silence. Long, heavy. "I read it 3 times, she continued. "You told the truth, and you didn't ask for protection." He nodded, eyes full. "I didn't want protection, Mom," he whispered. "I wanted peace." She didn't cry, not out loud, but her voice cracked like thin glass. "I should have taught you that," she said. "I was too busy surviving." And suddenly, neither was a Trump anymore. They were just 2 voices, mother and son, trying to breathe beneath the weight of a name. "I'm proud of you," she finally said. "Not because you fought, but because you stopped fighting." Barron didn't reply. He couldn't. The line went quiet. But in his heart, something let go. The war was over, not outside. Inside. 2 months passed. The world kept spinning, but something had changed. A small art gallery in Atlanta unveiled an exhibit called Truth Interrupted. The centerpiece? A sculpture of a young boy made from broken mirrors. Each shard had a real quote from letters people sent after the trial. Words like, "You saved my son." "I spoke up after 30 years. You made pain feel holy." And at the base of the sculpture was a plaque. It read, "Inspired by the courage of Jasmine Crockett and the 9 seconds that saved 1,000 truths." Crockett stood at the back of the gallery, quiet, almost invisible. People passed her, crying, hugging, whispering thanks. She wasn't seeking attention or power. She just wanted people to remember. Truth costs, but silence costs more. She touched the edge of the sculpture, cut her finger, just a little. It bled, and she smiled, because scars were not weakness. They were proof. Months later, Crockett received a letter. No stamp, just a name on the back. Barron. Inside were 2 things. 1, a simple note. "I'm teaching high school students now, about media, about truth, about what not to become. You changed me." 2, a photo. It was him standing with 10 students, all holding signs that said, "Truth is louder." She held the photo for a long time, not because of who he was, but because of who he became. And she realized something. This wasn't just a case she survived. It was a fire she walked through. And from it, something better rose. Not louder voices, but braver ones. She stood up, looked into the camera for one final message. If this story made you feel something, don't keep it inside. Comment your truth below. Tell us what moment broke you or healed you. Because truth doesn't live in silence. It lives in us. If you cried, like I did writing this, hit that like button. And if you believe stories like this matter, subscribe. Not just for views, for voices. Let's keep telling the truth, together.